It is time for the SBR College Basketball Closing Line every Saturday, 11 a.m. till 12 noon Eastern. We'll bring you right into the tip-offs with Maxwell Smart and Ian Cameron. I am Drew Martin. Guys, let's go around, introduce yourself. What's on your mind? Ian Cameron, follow him on Twitter, @Babano. Welcome in, man. How you doing this morning?
Yeah, Drew, we were talking off air. One of the things that's on my mind is let's get this regular season over with. Unfortunately, I think the regular season, at the end of the regular season in college basketball, is as tough as it is for me all season to bet this sport. I really scale back. It's very more selective. Motivation comes into play. Who's got something still to play for comes into the equation. Revenge situations. It's just a little trickier time, personally, for me at least, in college basketball. So still a lot of great games and exciting games to talk about, but more than anything, I'm looking forward to conference tournaments because I think coming up, we're going to be able to have some really great opportunities once those get underway.
Yeah, and they're right around the corner. There's some good opportunities on today's card. You know, with so many games, it's so much for the odds makers to do. I've said, you know, for a while now, it's one of the best days, if not the best day in mainstream sports to be a sports bettor, just because I think there's more advantages on our side with so much for the odds makers to do. And a guy that does know that, Maxwell Smart. Max, new edition last week. Great show, great feedback. Happy to have you, man. And welcome to the show. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Drew. I beat the traffic and a snowstorm in getting up to where I record, and I'm looking at this added game slate, and I'm just getting excited. I'm salivating at the mouth over it because I know local strippers are going to get fed their chicken tenders today.
Chicken tenders and local strippers, you're supporting it. I love it. You know, it's an honest living. You're supporting local business.
Yes.
Is that in your thinking of your local stripper kind of theme here, Max?
Yeah, we always want to keep it local. We don't want a whole big box city in Toronto here. We want to support the little people, and that means local strippers. Even though they make 150 grand a year, they need more, especially living in Toronto.
You know why I know Maxwell Smart's a hardcore college basketball fan and supporter, and these are the people I like when it comes to this sport, because he'll be as excited, if not more excited, for American versus Holy Cross and Radford versus Campbell than Kentucky versus Tennessee. You can write that down.
Is that true, Max?
Absolutely. I can't wait to see Chris Clemens in his last game at home on versus Radford with a chance to actually win the conference today. So let's go, Chris Clemens. Let's go, Campbell. Support those local strippers, boys.
Are you looking to bet them today? Considering the line in total?
I'm definitely looking to get on Campbell today, 100%.
Emotional environment. They're a +1 home underdog right now. And I don't watch this conference all the time, but I watch it a bit, and I know enough about Chris Clemens to know this guy's been special for Campbell. He has been that good for this team, this program. The fact that this is going to be senior day, his last home game for one of the best players they've probably had in eons there at that Campbell Camels program. And the fact that they're going to play with their hair on fire today, that Campbell team. Radford's very good, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think situationally, you know, you're going to probably get Campbell's A game in this one for Chris Clemens.
And guys, this show, we normally start off, you know, with the earlier games. So we'll start off 12 noon Eastern and kind of work our way down the card. Let us know what you want to hear about in the chat box. With so many games, it's kind of tough for us to get to every game. But if you're liking the content, please give us a thumbs up, the like button. That does help us out. But Ian, let's start off with you in the SEC. We got LSU, Bama. LSU, the 13th ranked team in the country. And guys, by the way, we're going by SBR odds here. This is 6:09, 6:10, 12 Eastern start, with the Tigers laying 2 in Tuscaloosa, 148, 149 the total, depending where you're shopping. I'll tell you, I think LSU's the more talented team. I think Bama's so up and down. It's not a team I'm really looking to bet, especially at home. It's not the best of home field advantages. This isn't football, it's basketball. It's more of a sleepier environment. Not that it will be sleepy today, but it's not one of the better home court environments. I'm looking towards LSU minus the 2. Ian, how would you look to bet this one?
I mean, LSU, let's give them a little bit of credit here. I mean, they haven't had Tremont Waters now for a couple of games, missed the Tennessee game, missed the game earlier this week as well against Texas A&M, and just find ways to keep on winning. keep on playing well, really digging in at the defensive end of the basketball court. And you know, you've heard me on the previous shows talk about how I loved LSU games over the total. I'm off that train for now because this team's playing some defense right now and playing better at that end of the basketball court. Big B Williams has been a big-time presence in the low post for this LSU team, doing a good job inside, blocking shots, rim protection, and the perimeter defense has been improved lately for LSU. I agree with Drew. I mean, I think they're a better team. I mean, the spot's a little dubious. You're going on the road. The one thing that's concerning, Drew, is they've been at home for so long, LSU. They've played, like, I think 3 or 4 home games in a row. It's the oddest thing. You don't normally see that, playing that many home games in a row in conference play, but LSU has. Now you got to go on the road for the first time in quite some time, but I do believe they're a better basketball team than Bama. You've mentioned it. Bama's been up and down. I don't think this is as good a Bama team as the one they had last year when Sexton was just an outstanding scorer for them, leading that team in every which way. I don't think Alabama's quite up to that level this season. I'm a little concerned about the spot for LSU, I got to admit. But if I was forced to make a bet here, it'd be LSU before Bama.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you. And Max, I know you concentrate more on the small conferences, know them as good as anybody. But we also have Michigan State, Indiana in the 12 o'clock slate with Michigan State -6.5. I'm sort of looking at both favorites here. I think Michigan State, the Spartans, are the side early in these 12 o'clock games as well. Do you have any opinion on either of these two kind of larger conference games?
Yeah, definitely have to be worried if you're back in LSU today, in my opinion, just because Alabama's really hungry. They've really changed. Avery Johnson has changed their practice drills, cut down the practice time, really trying to preserve energy so this team can get off to fast starts. It has worked the last couple games, so if there was a play I'd be looking at, I'd probably be looking to back Alabama on the first half. I'm just not sure how Tremont Waters coming back into the lineup is going to affect LSU with the fact that Skylar Mays was able to really step up and have a big game. It's a real hard spot, but I'd also be looking towards the under in this game. Seeing that the number opened above 150, seeing it going down to 148, 149, I'd be inclined to get on the under in this game.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Lower possessions.
Let's not forget, too. Yeah, I was going to say, let's not forget, too, Will Wade's had to deal with questions and things swirling around about the sanctions, too. And here's LSU still just absolutely just keeps on rolling along, playing great basketball with big wins against Tennessee. No letdown at all, just demoralized and dismantled Texas A&M. I mean, that's very impressive considering, you know, we're without Waters again. Wade's feeling some heat for questions about, you know, recruiting tactics. And then you've got, after the big win against Tennessee, you didn't have a letdown in the slightest. That's really impressive stuff from this LSU Tigers team.
And Ian, any follow-up there on the Michigan State-Indiana game? Do you agree with me at the Spartans being the side -6.5? I mean, in my opinion, one of the more underrated guard plays as far as point guard play for Michigan State. It's a team I'm looking to back in the tournament. I just think they're a well-coached team, tough-playing team, Michigan State. I think 6.5 is the side here.
They've had to deal with injuries and all kinds of injuries, all kinds of, you know, absences due to it. And yet, what did they do last weekend? I was very impressed with that win against Michigan. Extremely impressed. I mean, short-handed basketball team, one of the best teams and defenses and coaches, really, in John Beilein in the country, and able to get the job done as a short-handed group. Very impressed with the Spartans. I can't say I'm impressed with Indiana. You know, it's been a trying season. I really do feel bad for Archie Miller. It's really been a struggle. You know, I think he's a good coach. We saw what he did at Dayton. You know, every year when he was there, Dayton was pretty much, you could lock them in to be in the NCAA tournament. He's a good coach, and I still believe that. But he's just had so much to deal with. Lack of talent, injuries have creeped up repeatedly for this Hoosiers team. And unlike some other teams in the Big Ten, Michigan State's shown they have the depth to survive some injuries. Indiana just doesn't have that. So that's a big-time concern, I think, for them going into this game. They haven't shown they can step up in class and get the job done very often against the better teams here in the Big Ten. Just a question of do you want to lay 6.5 on the road, but I'd probably lay it before taking Indiana.
Okay. And shout out to Allison in the chat box, Air Force, Wyoming. Yeah, we'll hit that. I think Max had a play on that. And we got the 2 o'clock games, Kentucky, Tennessee kind of leading it there to what top 10 teams with a rematch there. Kentucky, Tennessee we'll get to. Max or Ian, anybody got anything on this Penn State, Wisconsin game? I feel like, you know, Wisconsin, they're a good team, the more talented team, but just a team I'm not really looking to lay, you know, 6-7 points with. I would look towards Penn State, who at times has shown flashes of being a really good team. Max, do you have any opinion here on Penn State, Wisconsin, or any other 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock games you want to throw out?
Well, definitely have an opinion on Penn State. I'm a big fan of Miles Dredd. I think that he really stepped up in the Maryland game going up against Anthony Cowan, and we saw how that turned out. I want to see the same kind of effort that we're getting at home from Penn State on the road. And I think that my biggest question for Wisconsin is what they're going to do if in late game roster management. Are they going to leave Ethan Happen, or are they going to bring Nate Roovers in? Because we've seen Ethan Happen really struggle from the free throw line, and we've seen teams hack him. So some of these questions I really need to see maybe a first half and see what Penn State's trying to do. But Penn State has Mike Watkins and Lamar Stevens to bang down low against Wisconsin's big man. I think it's going to come down to Miles Dredd for Penn State. But if you want to give me 8 points with Penn State, I'll probably have to jump on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got Jewish sex learners saying took Penn State earlier. So with that kind of name in the chat box, he definitely knows what he's talking about. Ian, what are you thinking of Penn State here?
We hope. Yeah, 7.5 here. I'm totally in agreement. This is actually the only bet I've got at noon Eastern time today. Penn State plus 7. I got 7. It was 7.5. I missed the 7.5. I got 7 with Penn State. It's even lower than that now. It's down to 6.5, 6. So there's a lot of sentiment on Penn State. I agree. Wisconsin's still not playing great basketball. They barely escaped Illinois, on their home court in a recent game. Hack-a-hap is real. It's a very real thing right now. I mean, they're seeing that this guy is really, really struggling at the free throw line. That charity stripe is not treating him very well this season for the Wisconsin Badgers. So if you're going to put him at the free throw line, rather than give him a free layup, a free bunny at the rim, you do it. And teams are starting to do that here with Ethan Happ. And he's going to have to eventually at some point say, hey, either start making some free throws or get in the gym, get in the practice facility off court when the games aren't taking place and work on your free throws. Come on. I mean, you're a guy that's counted on. You're a guy that's supposed to be leading this basketball team. At some point, you got to commit to yourself, hey, I got to get better shooting some free throws. And Ethan Happ, we're still waiting on that from him because, unfortunately, unlike past Wisconsin teams, I don't think there's as much talent on the perimeter for this year's Wisconsin team. So that puts even more duress and pressure on Ethan Happ to play big game in and game out for this Wisconsin team. And Penn State's rolling. I don't know what Pat Chambers has done to flip the switch recently, but it's a team playing with a lot more confidence, a lot more swagger. You know what I trace it back to, guys? I trace it back to when they beat Michigan. I think that was the start of Penn State saying they had a bunch. Let's not forget, all their losses in Big Ten play were close. They were so close to having a much better record than they currently have. They lost a slew of close games. They finally got a big win against Michigan. And look at what this team has done from a straight up and against the spread perspective since that win against Michigan. It's been they're just playing with confidence now. They can win some of these close games. They can be competitive. And we've seen that from Penn State. And I don't trust Wisconsin these days to win by margin. So I'm in complete agreement. It's a clean sweep here. Penn State plus the points.
And I'm just looking at Penn State for they're what, under 500. I was going to say, could they make a push to, but that's really not going to happen unless they make the Big Ten tournament. So do you think there's enough motivation there, Ian, coming down the stretch to actually make this a bet on team? I don't want to say every game, but you're only looking to bet on Penn State down the stretch.
This is an interesting situation with Penn State because I've seen this before, and I've fallen into the trap, Drew, before of teams red hot at the end of the regular season. Look out for them at conference tournament time, and bam, they're out in the first round. I've seen it happen before. But there are also examples of teams that do live up to that sentiment and that belief you just laid out, that they're red hot going into the conference tournament and they continue that momentum. So it's really case-by-case basis. I've seen it really work both ways. Penn State has all the momentum in the world going into the conference tournament. They're one of those teams you'd like to back probably in a conference tournament because what's their only chance of getting in the NCAA tournament? They've got to win the whole damn tournament. They have to win the Big Ten tournament. So they're a team that has to absolutely come in there and say, we've got to win every game we can. You should get that effort. You should get that intensity. They are playing with more confidence. They are playing better basketball, playing really good defense too right now, this Penn State team. So again, I personally would be looking to back them. Despite the fact that I have seen that play out before where they're rolling going into the conference tournament, you'd think they're a bet on team and they're ousted in the first game. I have seen that, but most of the time I'm going to try to give, especially when it's a team that's desperate, that needs these wins in the conference tournament to have any prayer whatsoever, of playing in the NCAA tournament, I try to make a case to back those teams.
Max, any opinion here on this kind of, the profile of a team that hadn't played well throughout the season? They're not going to they're not going to get an at-large bid into the tournament, but they are hot right now. They're a focused bunch. Would you look to bet on them down the stretch, or like Ian's saying, sometimes they can just be one and done in their conference tournament?
Yeah, I definitely see where Ian's coming from, but it just goes by a team-by-team basis. If you're getting a team that's really coming together and are excited to play with each other and know that there's a future next year to do even better, I think that sometimes you can get better performances from teams than you can really cap or the numbers portray. I think personally, right now, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be able to step it up, and there's just going to be no way for us to really be able to determine if they aren't until we see them play.
Okay, good point there. And hey, let's get to this big matchup at 2:00. We got Kentucky, Tennessee, number 4 Kentucky versus number 7 Tennessee in the rankings. 141 being the total. Tennessee now pushed up to 2.5 or 3, depending where you're shopping. Looks like what Chris, bookmaker, to American clients, -3. So most shops are at 3. We got 5 dimes at 2.5. That's Tennessee laying at home in Knoxville. Guys, I've said it, last Saturday, I've been betting Kentucky pretty much every game for the last 4 or 5 games. I think the market is really underrating this Kentucky team. Calipari, yeah, I think, like I said on last Saturday's show, he might be a scumbag off the court, but on the court, he can coach guys up as these freshmen become pretty much sophomores now with all the playing time. I think they're underrated. It's a bet on team. I have bet Kentucky today, got him 2.5. Now it's pushed up to 3 at most shops. So thinking about putting a little bit more on it here. Max, that you, man. Do you think Kentucky's the side here? You agree with me?
Well, let's just put it this way. I don't drink Jack Daniels from the state of Tennessee because it's fucking piss whiskey. Okay, I drink Kentucky bluegrass bourbon, Maker's Mark. Okay, that's my brand. Okay, when it comes to betting college basketball with these two rivals, I'm not touching these Knoxville sons of bitches. I'm on Kentucky. I don't give a shit if it loses. I don't need a statistical backup for it. I bleed blue, and when these guys go up against these Knoxville sons of bitches, it's going to be fucking beautiful. It's going to be entertaining, and I'm glad that I'm awake at 2:00 Eastern to watch that game. Give me Kentucky plus 2.5, plus 3. I'll take whatever's available, and I'll even take them on the money line plus money.
Great analogy, man. The bourbon, the whiskey. Ian, that's a tough follow, man, especially if you're trying to pull out an analogy on Kentucky versus Tennessee.
That's a golden analysis right there. That's absolutely true. You're getting a little finer, just like you're getting a finer brand of liquor, basically with Kentucky bourbon over Tennessee whiskey. You're getting a finer quality of athlete with the Kentucky Wildcats over the Tennessee Volunteers, a higher level of recruit in a lot of cases. Although I will be honest, this is one of the most talented Tennessee teams I've seen in a very, very long time. Grant Williams is special. Like, I'm telling you, these last few games Tennessee's played, the team as a whole has been bobbling and wobbling a little bit the last few games, but Grant Williams has been steady as a rock. This guy is just power moves to the basket, spin moves, great player to watch. He's been excellent for Tennessee, really carrying them offensively. Very experienced team. I will say this. This is a statement game. Like, this is a statement game for both teams. But this is really, for Tennessee, a game where the pressure's on them. It's time to show that you're a legitimate force and top-tier team in this country. And I still have my doubts because you've feasted on an easier schedule for most of your SEC season, and in your step-up games, you've had a little hiccup here and there. Let's see now what Tennessee's made of here today. Kentucky didn't just beat you at Rupp Arena. They left you with your face down, looking on the court, and beaten and bloodied with that loss to Kentucky at Rupp Arena earlier this season. That was just, it looked like it was men against boys. It looked like there was no comparison in terms of the two teams on the basketball court. This is now Tennessee's opportunity at home to show what they're made of, really show the country what they're made of, because that was a humiliating loss against Kentucky. We'll see what they're made of today. I'm not willing to lay 2.5 with them. I'll tell you that. The must win doesn't equal will win. But to me, there's a lot more at stake in this game for Tennessee than there is for Kentucky. I think their reputation is on the line a lot more than it is for Kentucky in this game. But I'm not stepping in front of Kentucky. I agree. They're playing too good. BJ Washington, hero. Fantastic for this team. He's been absolutely excellent. Hagans, we talked about Hagans. Drew loves it. Hagans. I mean, he's always mentioned him every time we talk about Kentucky basketball. But why not? He's been great for them, for Coach Cal and that team. Play defense with reckless abandon every single game. I mean, stifling defense. That's very impressive for as young a team as Calipari's had, and he's bitched and moaned for years. Drew and Max, you'll know this. He's bitched and moaned for years, saying my team's not playing defense right now, and it's driven him nuts that for so long during the course of a long season, his team struggles defensively. That has not been the case this year. He's gotten them to buy in, and they're a really damn good team because of it. So, yeah, I think Tennessee is going to come into this game as the more urgent team, but urgency doesn't equal wins. You got to still go out and prove it. And Kentucky, I'm not willing to bet against them as a dog.
All right, so sounds across the board, Ian. Yeah, good stuff there with Higgins. On-ball defense, like you just said, Kentucky defensively very good. Guys, a couple of other games here at the 2 o'clock slate, not necessarily mainstream big-time games, but we got Pittsburgh, Virginia here. Big spread, 17.5. I always find it interesting. You know, do you lay a big number with Virginia, kind of low possession game or not? West Virginia, Oklahoma. Max, you were talking off air about Oklahoma. Like if they get a bid, that would really piss you off. Also, a couple other big games in the 2-3 o'clock kind of time frame here. Wofford, Samford, smaller conference. Max, not sure if you got anything on that. The Wofford Terriers, I believe they are ranked now, laying 9 on the road. But Max, any opinion on these 3 games? West Virginia, Oklahoma, Pitt, Virginia, or the Wofford game?
Yeah, I'm already on the Virginia under full game. I'm going to get on Virginia first half. I'm not going to take them full game. I'm going to want to see how they come out and what they're shooting like and if they're efficient offensively. When it comes to Oklahoma, I'm not going to have a play on that game just yet. Obviously, the play that most people are going to be leaning towards is going against West Virginia. But West Virginia's backcourt made me eat my words about how I couldn't trust them in the game versus TCU. So I'm a little weary over this team. But a game that obviously I'm very interested in is the Southern Conference's king, Wofford. Undefeated, coming off a dismantling of Chattanooga, which did cost me a unit. I think that this Wofford team is just on a mission. I don't think that they're going to be able to get stopped by Samford today. I think that they go into Samford. I think that they cover. I like Josh Sharkey, but Josh Sharkey has a turnover issue. Are you going to be able to get Ruben Guerrero going against Cam Jackson for Wofford? I'm not so sure about that. And if Fletcher McGee has one of his high-scoring games, which we've seen him do on the road quite often in conference, this Wofford team's definitely a play on.
Okay, so like in Wofford. Ian, anything here on the other 2 o'clock games?
The one I'm looking at actually in the A10 is George Mason plus points against St. Louis. St. Louis is I hate to do this because I really like this team going into the season. I thought Travis Ford was going to have a really solid group. Javon Bess running the point for the St. Louis team in the backcourt, but it hasn't been a good run at all for the Billikens. They've been a massive underachiever. They have disappointed throughout the A10 season. They've really struggled, and now they're in a point spread role that really, to be honest, I don't flat out trust them in laying points. I mean, this is not the kind of point spread range you want to be trusting St. Louis in. The George Mason Patriots, you know, they have been competitive in several of their games. It's more than anything, St. Louis has really struggled with their confidence. They've really struggled to shoot. I mean, their offense just goes through droughts many times during games, really rely on 1 or 2 players to carry their team in the offensive end of the court. And when they're not shooting, nobody's contributing for the Billikens. So this is just a team that's struggling. I don't trust them laying 5.5 right now against many teams in this conference, and that includes George Mason. So I'll take the George Mason Patriots on the road, plus 5.5 there.
Patriots plus 5.5. Also, back to Max's point, Max, you said you lost a unit and you're going back. You learned from your mistake. That's one of the best things I like about sports betting. When I lose on a team, you know, regrouping, reanalyzing, and then going at it. Guys, giving a little love to the chat box. Tomar, always good opinions. I'm on Penn State. Wisconsin's guard play just isn't good. We all agree with you, Tomar. We got Jewish Sex Learner back at it again. I'm on Wofford too. So he's with you, Max. And also Josh Min saying UMass ? Max has a great read on them after a brutal loss. Anything on UMass, Max?
Yeah, it just really comes down to like what kind of roster they're going to be able to put out. Obviously, they've been playing without Pipkins the last couple games, but Carl Pierre has definitely been able to attempt and done an admirable job of stepping up. I want to know what's going on with Rasheen Holloway. He's not getting minutes. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't think it's an injury. I think it's just a coaching philosophy issue and a work ethic issue on his part. But I think that this is a valuable weapon that you always have to take into consideration when you're betting on or against UMass. I don't have a play on the game right now. It's not making my board today, unfortunately.
Ian, also another question here. Oklahoma, or we got Jim Bean. We were talking about whiskey. Oklahoma will hammer the Mountaineers by 15 plus. Oklahoma, West Virginia. That was another game in this time slot. I like Oklahoma, but West Virginia, they were playing so crappy, and then for a couple weeks there, they started playing pretty well and covering some numbers. Do you have any opinion here on this Big 12 game?
Yeah, I mean, West Virginia has continued to fight. They're not good. They've had a terrible season. Bob Huggins has been frustrated. He said, what did he say in that one press conference? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm angry, or he said something like that. I'm upset, and many games ago when they got blown out. And it's been obviously a terrible season for West Virginia. The press hasn't worked because they're just not forcing turnovers. They can't run that. They just don't have the players to execute the press at the level they have in years past, and that's been the difference. And they're not shooting well at all. And again, but that's been an issue for years. How many years have we talked about West Virginia? Half-court offense is no good for them. If they're not creating turnovers and getting on the fast break and transition, forget it. They're not scoring. It's been more of the same for West Virginia this season. Defensively, they've fallen off a little bit as well. That's an issue. But the problem is, I mean, it's not like Oklahoma's playing phenomenal basketball to trust them in this kind of price range. No way, no how. I mean, we talked off air. I mean, this is the exact same thing Oklahoma did last year. They had a nice, really, really good non-conference season. Then when the Big 12 schedule arrived, they just flatlined and fell off a cliff. And that's exactly what we're seeing, unfortunately, again. Second straight year for Oklahoma. You can't blame Trae Young this time. People said last year Trae Young's got the ball too much. He's not using his teammates enough. Well, he's gone now. So what now is the problem? What now has caused this for Oklahoma, this swoon here in Big 12 play? So, yeah, Oklahoma's not playing the kind of ball I trust them with in this price range. I don't want West Virginia at all, but there is a case. I mean, they have been competitive. They have been scrappy. Maybe being scrappy one more time today gets them a point spread cover. We'll see, but I'm passing on this one.
And Ian, what about Miami Duke? Duke's gotten a lot of headlines here with the Zion issue. Miami, on the other hand, they did cover against UNC, a game I lost. It's another team that has had a lot of injuries, but they haven't quit. Jim Larinaga, still coaching them up to some degree. Duke, lost 2 of their last 3 games. How interested are you in laying 16 points with Duke?
Yeah, not very. I mean, it's just a team that's still trying to find their way a little bit. They've definitely had some ups and downs the last few games. Miami is still playing hard, for Jimmy Larinaga. Obviously, this is not the same level of talent we've seen from Miami in years past. But here's another team with Duke right now. You're just wondering, do they just want to coast to the finish line here in the last few games here of this ACC regular season? I mean, they know they've got the upper hand from the standings perspective right now. This Duke Blue Devils team, obviously the 2 wins against Virginia head to head went a long way towards that. It's just about, if you're Coach K, it's not about win by 17 or more this time of the year. It's about just win, get the win. It can be ugly. Who cares about the margin? Just get the win and move on to the next game, and hopefully try to avoid any further injuries to this Duke Blue Devils team. So yeah, at this time of year, laying 16s with the Dukes of the world, not something I'm interested in.
Dan Kelly saying, how can you take Duke without Zion? So agreeing with you there, Ian. Max, let's get you in here, man. What are you thinking about Duke, Miami, and also anything on Oklahoma, West Virginia?
Yeah, no, nothing on Oklahoma, West Virginia, but I'm definitely looking at this Duke game, and I'm hoping that what Ian said comes to fruition. I'm hoping that they are just coasting through this game up until they get their rematch against North Carolina in the final game of conference season. And I'm hoping today that this game is going to go under. I'm looking to get on the under in this game. Duke home games are 4-10 to the under, 1-6 during the day, even though a lot of people like to discount that. They're playing good three-point defense. They're not hitting three-point shots. The one area of concern I do have for this total is if it comes down to free throws and they're fouling, because Duke uncharacteristically has been hitting free throws, and Miami's doing a great job also, both hitting above 75% the last 5 games. So I'm just hoping that both these teams are cold from 3, and that's what I'm anticipating, and I'm taking the under on this Duke-Miami game. I'm not touching the side, though.
Okay, underplay there. I like the analysis too. We got UCF Houston, also another big one here. I believe it's on ESPN. Houston, is record wise, I believe they have the best record in the country, 27-1, versus UCF. Kind of disappointed to a certain degree this year, coming off of last year. Might think that they'd be a little bit better than they are. Aubrey Dawkins, BJ Taylor, obviously Taco Fall as well. So UCF does have some talent, but going against Houston, one of the I guess you could say one of the better teams in all of the country. Ian, you interested in getting involved in Houston UCF in this AAC matchup?
Yeah, this is it seems like the number's dead on with Houston laying 7, because I could see Houston winning by like 6 or 7 in this game. I think Houston's going to win the game. They're playing just too well. Central Florida could give them a battle, and Central Florida has really stepped their game up the last couple. A very nice, impressive win. That's what was impressive about the last game for UCF against South Florida. You know, they had this big game on deck against Houston. No. We're not looking at that. We're going to take care of business. They did just that. They've got the interior defense. We know with that behemoth in the low post, Taco Fall, to maybe neutralize Houston inside a little bit. More than anything, I think under the total is the way I'd bet in this game. I remember Houston playing Cincinnati in a big showdown game in this conference. That was a grinder. That was a defensive slugfest from start to finish in that basketball game. I could see something very similar. We've thought in years past, or people have assumed that Houston's this, up and down offensive team. That's not Houston this year with Kelvin Sampson. Their defense, they play great defense. They don't play as fast tempo pace wise as they have in previous seasons. UCF can play some defense. Houston's terrific defensively. I think it's just going to be one of those big conference games. 2 of the better teams in this conference just showing their might on the defensive end. So I'm not betting the side, but this under, I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to come out in near the mid 130s here like it did. I think you might be able to get an under out of this one.
Max, what are you thinking here, UCF Houston? Also, your thoughts on betting kind of the AAC overall heading into March. Houston, Cincinnati, they're likely in. Heck, the AAC could get 3, 4, 5 teams into the tournament if all goes their way. Would you look to be betting the AAC come tournament?
Yeah, I think that the American has a lot of good coaches and a lot of good defensive teams and a lot of teams that have unique advantages. UCF having Taco Fall. Not a lot of teams are going to be used to playing a guy who's 7'6", so they're not necessarily going to have an ironclad game plan down for a player like him. Or someone like Corey Davis. This is a guy that, although he is not tall in stature, is capable of taking over a game, getting to the glass, really getting to loose balls. You really see the effort from him. So you're going to see a different caliber of player from the American Conference teams than you're going to see from some of the teams like the Big West. So I'm definitely going to be looking at the American teams. I think that they're going to be big underdogs and they're going to have value in the March Madness tournament. But right now, I'm still looking at conference tournament. I'm still looking at teams like Tulsa, Tulane, South Florida. So I'm staying focused on predicting some underdogs in conference tournaments and then worried about who gets into the big tournament afterwards.
Yeah, that's good. Worry about today. Worry about tomorrow. We got 705, 706 here. Max Allison was asking about it earlier. Air Force, Wyoming out west. We got Air Force laying 2 on the road in Laramie, 131.5 the total. 2 high elevation teams, but it's in Laramie this time. How are you betting Air Force, Wyoming?
Yeah, the only way for me to play this game is Air Force. Listen, when you got Lavelle Scotty, a guy who can really go off in any game and does get up for games, I think that he's going to get up for this Wyoming game. I think that Air Force needs to win this game. This is a team that's been trending up. They're shooting 45% from the field right now. They're hitting a decent amount of threes. And then when it comes to a matchup advantage-wise, they just dominate key areas for me. They dominate on the glass. They're +5 in turnovers. They're making a lot more three-point shots a game, and they're just outscoring their opponents. I think that this Air Force team isn't going to have a letdown, and I think that even though Jake Hendricks is healthy and back for Wyoming, I just don't think that they have enough complementary scoring for Justin James, and I got to get on Air Force or nothing.
Air Force or nothing there. Ian, anything on Air Force Wyoming game? Also Iowa Rutgers. I just don't think Iowa's that good. I know Rutgers isn't that good either, but catching 8.5, I think the Scarlet Knights are worth a look here. Anything on these two games?
Yeah, I like Rutgers. That's a bet for me. Rutgers plus the points. The Steve Peichel. Again, we're not saying he's turned this program around, but you can see he's making baby steps of progress forward with Rutgers, and that's all you can ask for. They've still got to get better talent. The recruiting has got to improve. That could come over time, but it's got to start with some progress, incremental improvement on the court, and we're at least seeing that from Rutgers a little bit this season. And you're right, Iowa's back to the same old Iowa right now, the team that doesn't play great defense. It's really reared its ugly head for Iowa and Fran McCaffrey's team. Iowa was going through a nice little run. Everyone's starting to believe in Iowa. I never did once believe in this Iowa team. I said somehow, some way they're going to look like and just trip up and find a way to disappoint again. And we're starting to see signs of that. They're back to playing no defense. We're back to seeing Fran McCaffrey blow up and lose his stack on the sideline like he did the other night against Ohio State. So yeah, Iowa to me, no, I'm not laying 8 with them. I like Rutgers in that spot. I agree with Air Force Wyoming. Wyoming's decimated. Wyoming is what? They've won 1 game in their last 10. You're going to trust them in a competitively lined game like this? I sure as hell am not. And a great point about Justin James just carrying this team. Last Wyoming game, Justin James, 27 points. No other starter for Wyoming has more than 6 points. So that tells you all you need to know right now. This Wyoming team's got no secondary support for Justin James at the offensive end. Tariq Johnson's out. Hunter Maldonado's out. Austin Mueller's out. 5 guys are out of this team either due to injury or suspension. It's a decimated team. There's no depth. There's no bench to be had for this Wyoming team. They wear the starters into the ground, playing them so many minutes. That's a problem when you're playing in elevation all the time like Wyoming is. People get fatigued, tired, worn down. And I think that's had an impact on Wyoming's struggles as well. So, yeah, I agree. Air Force or nothing for me in that game.
Guys, we also got a couple small games wanted to bring up that Max, I know you know a lot about. We got Belmont here versus Southeast Missouri State. Belmont laying a big number, 15. High total here, 157.5. How are you looking to attack Belmont?
Yeah, I'm looking to attack Belmont because Belmont has just been a scoring, spread covering machine the last couple games. They're averaging close to 95 points a game the last 5. And it's not like they're slouching on defense also. They're only giving up 66. So the margin of victory that they've been putting on guys to finish the season and hopefully get an at-large bid, because I think that's what they're playing for. They're trying to make a statement and really get noticed. And I think that when you're shooting 55% from the field, I notice it as a bettor. The local strippers notice it also because they're going to get their chicken tenders tonight when Belmont cashes me a ticket minus 15 on the spread. So this is just a really easy spot for me to get on. I don't have to work too hard on it. This is a team that's going to be +5 in turnovers. They're going to force steals. They're going to be aggressive on ball handlers. They're confident, and they've been making you money on the road ATS and in conference. So give me the team that won by 26 the first time, and I think that they're able to cover 15 today.
Great breakdown, Max, but I do want to follow up. Have you ever in your life had a intelligent, in-depth conversation with a stripper about college basketball betting?
No, I've had intelligent conversations with strippers because most of them are in post-secondary education trying to pay off their loans. But most of them don't want to hear anything about my college basketball talk. They are pretty angry that I'm going on with this whole support local stripper freaking routine. They don't like it, but I don't give a shit because they get their chicken tenders and honey, and they get their freaking dollars when I throw them at them.
Well, I mean, if they're into college, I would think that they would know a little bit, about maybe college basketball, no?
No, well, in Canada here, we don't watch Canadian college basketball. It's terrible. The CIS, listen, there's one good team, Carleton. I live in Toronto where there's 3 or 4 schools that I could watch. I choose not to. I envy you in America, Drew. You have it very good. You're very lucky.
Yeah, hey, no doubt. I think, the United States of America is the best country in the world. But I'll tell you, when I lived in Atlanta, I wasn't like there every day or anything, but I would have some intelligent conversations. Some of the strippers, a lot of Georgia fans, some Georgia Tech fans. Every now and again, you'd catch an Auburn fan, but there was a lot of bandwagon Alabama fans, like Alabama's national championship run and everything. So it seemed like a lot of the strippers were more Alabama fans, which didn't go over well with me. But anyway, Ian, any thoughts on the strippers in college basketball, and also Nevada, Utah State, man? I know you had something about that game.
Well, that's the biggest myth and fallacy going, that every single stripper you come in contact with is dumber than a bag of rocks. I mean, that's not true. You're going to get definitely you're going to be able to converse intelligently with a lot of strippers. I mean, that to me is lunacy, that people would think that across the board, every single one, uneducated, not very smart, not very bright. I mean, you couldn't be more wrong about that as far as I'm concerned, because, we've been to, I certainly with the Gabe Morency's of the world, some road rages he's been at in years past, we've been to a few strip clubs, and there are some girls that are, got a future vision in mind, even though they're strippers. So, what they want to do with their lives. So, yeah, I mean, I think we got to clear up that misconception right there, and hopefully we've done that. What was the game? Nevada, Utah State. That's right. Mountain West. Definitely a situation, I think, where for Utah State, I mean, Craig Smith, how about this guy? Nobody talks about him enough. The coach of the Aggies here, done a great job in Logan with this Utah State program this year, playing great basketball. The question is, are they ready to take on the monster that is Nevada? Who, of course, are owning this Mountain West Conference once again. That's going to be the big question here. I would give them a puncher's chance in this game. I really would, because from a Utah State perspective, certainly this game holds a lot more weight for you than it does for Nevada. I was hoping to get a better number, though. You're in a price range now where Utah State can't even lose by a bucket, 2 or 3 points, which is a very plausible outcome in this game. And you still won't cash your ticket, because we're talking pick 'em here pretty much in this game against Nevada here. So that's the tough part for me. But I think Utah State's got a chance here in this game. We know Nevada is as good as it gets offensively, but even in the win against UNLV earlier this week, they had a comfortable lead defensively. They sort of let their foot off the gas. I still don't think Eric Musselman's got a phenomenal team defensively. You can score the basketball, you can move the ball, you can play an inside-out game. You can score some points against this Nevada team. I find their slow rotations. They don't contest as well as some other teams do at the defensive end. But Utah State, to me, they're playing Nevada at the right time because their confidence is sky high. They're playing great. We'll see if they get it done. I lean Utah State, but I was hoping for them to get a few more points in this. I was thinking Utah State maybe plus 2.5 or 3. I would have gotten involved. Pick them now just because they're going to have to win the game. It's just going to be a lean now.
Yeah, Ian, I think you bring up some great points. And guys, we'll go kind of rapid fire here towards the end of these games and throw out best bets. But as far as on the night slate, this is my favorite game. I bet it. I like Nevada here. And the reason, what they played in January and blew them out 72-49. And it's almost like the market's getting a little too cute here, Max. I mean, this is, like Ian said, they can't even lose by a basket. And I know it's in Logan. Logan's a tough place to play, both football and basketball. It's not like, you take a flight right in there. You got to take a flight, get on a bus, up and down the mountains. It's a tough place to play, no doubt. But it's just, that's too big of a swing, man. It's not that big of a home field advantage. So I think Nevada's the side. How are you viewing this one?
Yeah, Utah State has a promotion going, so they're giving something away. So they're definitely trying to up the atmosphere. I just think that this Nevada team, yes, they can be a little bit lazy. They can be a little bit slow in rotations. They can settle for jump shots a little too often. But I think tonight you're going to see intense defense. You're going to see them mix in some zone also. If Utah State's able to score, that's what they did against UNLV the other night. I think that this Nevada team is going to bring its best game against Utah State. They're not looking to have another San Diego State upset. And last time I said the Wolfpack were going to feed on some Aztecs, it was the Aztecs fucking killing the Pack. Today, I'm saying the Pack's going to fucking chew and spit out some Aggies all over Logan. Give me Nevada, money line. Give me the -1.5. I'll take them whatever the fuck they're on the spread. Local strippers support that pick, whether or not they fucking like me talking about them online or not.
Maxwell smart with the analysis there, guys. And T asking, what's the max bets at 12? Guys, if you do have your best bet for the show going at 12, feel free to give it out now. And if not, what's your favorite game on the 12 o'clock slate? I would say mine is Michigan State minus the 6 now over Indiana. Max, you liking anything? Have you bet anything on the 12 o'clock Eastern start?
Oh, I'm a complete degenerate and a volume player, so I got a lot of action right now. There's 4 games in the Patriot League. I got action on all 4 games, and the game that I'm going to actually bring to our attention is American University. They are going into Holy Cross. Holy Cross has been playing very good basketball, but American, if they can win this game, they get the 4th seed in the Patriot League tournament. That means they get a home game. I think that's a big building block for them to get up for this game. I think that they go into Holy Cross, they cover the 2.5 points, they win, and I would even suggest putting half a unit on the over.
All right, so like a half a unit on the over, but really like an American plus 2.5, which you can get across the board at SBR odds right now. So there you go, T for Max. Ian, what about you? One is your best bet at 12 o'clock. What is it? And if not, what's your favorite bets on the slate?
Yeah, it's not the overall best bet, but it was close. I mean, it's probably my second or third favorite play on the entire card today, and it's Penn State plus points against Wisconsin. So that's my 12 o'clock best bet.
I like that one as well. And guys, we got to kind of open it up here to the late slate. Max, I know you like the Boise State game at UNLV. UNLV laying 2. We know that they've had issues, but they are at home. Also, I believe we got Gonzaga St. Mary's. When we start talking, the degenerate special, the get back game. Gonzaga laying 9.5. I know we have UFC tonight, but still maybe multiple televisions on and the get back game.
Sure.
Max, anything on those 2 games?
Oh, absolutely. So I've been on many SBR programs saying how I hate Derek Alston. I hope he tears his Achilles. I hope that many bad things happen to him tonight. Well, I'm turning on a goddamn dime. I'm going with Boise State money line. Fuck you, Coach Menzies. I hope that you fucking slip on a banana peel and can't coach tonight. I just think that this Boise State team needs a win coming off that Colorado State debacle where they lost at home, I believe, by double digits. I think that they're just going to return the favor to UNLV tonight. So give me some Boise. And when it comes to Gonzaga, the way that they dispatched St. Mary's the first game, holding them under 50 points, I cannot step in front of that train. I think that the front court for Gonzaga will be able to stop Malik Fitz. I think that the backcourt depth, when you got 3 or 4 capable guards, I think that they'll be able to shut down Jordan Ford like in the first game, and Gonzaga's gonna roll.
All right, short number there with Gonzaga, liking Gonzaga. We also got our boy Magooster 99 saying New Mexico, Colorado State, guys, question mark. Ian, do you have anything on this late slate and anything on New Mexico game?
That is, wow. I think you've just hit my best bet for the show here with this New Mexico, Colorado State game.
And then hold it, man.
I'll hold it.
Yeah.
Let's just say we've got 2 teams headed in opposite directions right now in this game. I'm on the team that's going in the up direction. There's your teaser.
Okay, sounds good. And anything here on the so like 10 o'clock slate, maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock Eastern that you want to throw out?
Actually, you know what? I've one from the afternoon slate that I like. I'm going to lay 3.5 on the road with Texas Tech against TCU. Texas Tech still can win the Big 12 regular season title, neck and neck with Kansas State, Kansas. For that title. Even Baylor's still barely hanging around, but they need a lot of help. It's really Kansas State, Kansas, and Texas Tech at this point, 3-horse race for the Big 12 regular season title. It's a big game. Every game now is big for Texas Tech in order to try to win that. They've owned TCU the last few years. They've won every meeting against the Horned Frogs, including the one earlier this season in Lubbock. Now you only have to lay 3.5 with them here. And Chris Beard wasn't happy with his team's defense. We always talk about how great Texas Tech is defensively. Efficiency numbers, they all measure up to them being one of the better defensive teams in the country. Wasn't happy with their defense against Oklahoma State. They barely escaped. It was a scare for them. They survived with an overtime win against the Cowboys the other night. I think that's a wake-up call a little bit for Texas Tech. It was a win. They got it, but it wasn't impressive. They didn't play great. I think that prompts them to play a lot better. a lot more focused and a lot better at the defensive end of the court here against a TCU team that offensively still very much limited. Especially, I think they're just going to struggle to score here against a Texas Tech defense that I think is going to be really wanting to make amends for a rare shoddy effort at that end of the court the other night against Oklahoma State, even though they escaped with the win. So I like Texas Tech there as a short road favorite.
Okay, so like in Texas Tech, Ian, I want to come back at you with another question from Jewish Sex Learner, just because his name's so dang good. You guys haven't talked about Ole Miss yet. Arkansas sucks. I like Ole Miss. I haven't bet it though, but it is a game I glanced at shortly, and I would go with Ole Miss. Anything on it?
Yeah, for me, I mean, Ole Miss or nothing. But
Okay.
that was a crusher of a loss against Tennessee. That's the only hang up I've got with backing Ole Miss today. I mean, they heart and soul into that game against Tennessee at home the other night. Gut-wrenching. They had a terrible, by the way, they got a bad freaking whistle all game long, Ole Miss, from the officials in that game. The last call, that debatable charge call, I think was the right call. That sealed the win for Tennessee, that had Kermit Davis throwing his suit jacket off on the sideline and losing his mind, and the Oxford fans were tossing drinks and bottles and glasses onto the court after that. They were so mad, but that was the right call at the end. But prior to that, there were so many 50-50 calls that were going to Tennessee's way. Ole Miss wasn't getting any of them, and it had a big factor in Tennessee escaping with that victory against Ole Miss. I just don't know if Ole Miss picks themselves up enough to get the job. Arkansas is not very good. I don't like this team at all. I would still take Ole Miss before I take Arkansas, but there's more than enough concern I've got with the spot for Ole Miss to say, hey, I'll back off and not bet them in this spot.
Good stuff, Ian. Rusty Shackleford, Tomar, Jewish Sex Learner, Chip. You got Moss, Capper John, Dom. All these guys, man. Joe Ramirez, good guys here in the chat box. Appreciate you guys chiming in. If you like the content today, please give us the thumbs up button. We'll be back next Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Guys, we got to head to best bets. We got 2 minutes left till the tip-offs. Max, you want to start us off, man? I mean, you've been good. You know, college basketball, everybody knows you, man. The stripper talk, everything like that. So you want to leave us with the best bet here, bud?
Yeah, I'll leave you guys with a best bet. I'm going to leave you with two best bets. I'm going to go with FDU on the spread -3.5, and I'm going to go with St. Francis, Pennsylvania to upset Sacred Heart. Both these teams are competing for the same thing. FDU needs to win today so that they can have a shot at a share of the conference title. St. Francis has to win so that they can outright win it. I'm going to take both these one road dog and one road favorite, and I think that they both covered today. So give me FDU and give me St. Francis, Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, for the first time in history, Ian, I'm not sure what we're going to do here. Does that count as 2 in our record, or does each one count as a half of bet?
2. You got to count it as 2. They're 2 bets. They're 2 wins or losses. Yeah, count it as 2.
Okay, so it's going to count as 2. All right, Max. So we're doubling up on you, man. You got FDU, and what's the best number you can get?
So the best number that I can get for FDU is right now it's 4 or 4.5. I see a 4 bet online, but I see a 4.5 in Pinnacle, so I'm going to have to take the 4.5. And then for the St. Francis game, let me just scroll down here because I don't have my bet page open with me. They're a +3.5 dog at Pinnacle, and I'll take that -112.
So FDU -4.5.
Yep.
And St. Francis +3.5 for Max's 2 bets. And record keeping wise, guys, we were saying it out before, it will count each one as a unit. So you can follow Max on Twitter at MaxwellSmart420. Good follow on Twitter. Also, Ian Cameron on Twitter at Babano. Ian, what do you got for best bets, bud?
Well, we teased it earlier. It would be from the Colorado State, New Mexico game, and that is where we're going for best bet. And like I said, these are 2 teams going in opposite directions right now. New Mexico has been terrible the last 3 games. 3 straight losses, including a loss as an 11-point favorite against San Jose State in their last game. That's pretty hard to do, to lose to the San Jose State Spartans. New Mexico managed to do that in their last game. This has just been a team that's been a mess for the most part in Mountain West season. It's not very well coached team as far as I'm concerned. They don't play a lick of defense. And I am seeing, and Colorado State started the Mountain West season as a bad team too. But New Mexico's getting progressively worse and worse and worse. I'm starting to see Colorado State the last few games get progressively better and better and better. Big road win for them outright as underdogs against Boise State in their last game for their third win in a row. I think Nico Medved was a very good hire, did a good job at Drake, head coach of this Colorado State team, and a young guy, a tough situation for him to come into there in Fort Collins. But you're seeing how good a coach I think he is, because this team now is playing their best ball toward the end of the regular season. It's taken time, but Colorado State is playing better now. You look at a lot of their starters, they put up points. They played better defensively. They've held 2 of their last 3 teams below 70 points. You're getting great performances from Nico Carvacho, Chris Martin, Kendall Moore, Adam Thistlewood. They've all shot the ball extremely well lately for this Rams team. I'm stunned money is coming in on New Mexico. I understand the lore, the pit. Oh, the pit. Oh, the pit. It's so tough to win there. But BS. I mean, they're the mediocre home team this year, New Mexico. They're not the better of these 2 teams right now. They're not the team in the better form right now. Colorado State +3. I think they win outright. I'll take the +3 as a bonus. Colorado State for best bet.
Colorado State +3 for Ian Cameron. Follow him on Twitter @Babano. Max is on 2 best bets, each counting as the same unit as Ian and mine's. FDU -4.5 and St. Francis +3.5. Follow Max on Twitter @MaxwellSmart420. Myself @Drew Martin Bets. And for my best bet, 2 o'clock time frame, I'm going with the Kentucky Wildcats again, just like last Saturday. +3, pretty much across the board. I'll take it at Bet Online. There are some 2.5s out there, but in this situation, guys, it's easy to find a 3. So I'm taking Kentucky +3, the more talented team, the better defensive team, and the better coach team. And you get +3 in your pocket. They are on the road, so I'm on the Kentucky Wildcats +3. For Ian Cameron, Maxwell Smart, I am Drew Martin. Thanks for everybody in the chat box. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Best of luck with your bets today.
Good luck, everybody.